About every bride, it was one of the required words for days like today. But it wasn't true about every bride. At least, not as true as it was about Chloe today. Had everyone said it about her? Was it true about her? Chloe was Canadian, and actually she always glowed with North American wholesome health, all straight white teeth and smooth blonde waves. She looked, Susannah acknowledged, particularly lovely today. Her dress was a long sheath of heavy ivory duchesse satin. Elegant and timeless, it suited Chloe perfectly. As she passed, she shook her bouquet slightly at Susannah in triumphant greeting, and Susannah felt herself shaking her clenched fists in response. Her shoulders hunched. Alex's chest was puffed out with pride. Chloe's arm was through his, and he had clasped her fingers with his other hand. He kept looking from her to their guests, and quickly back to her, as though he still couldn't believe she was his wife, at last. It was hard not to believe in these two, watching them now. Even for Susannah. Maybe Alex and Chloe would be okay. Some people were, weren't they? Susannah's mother, Rosemary, turned now to her only daughter. Her face was wet with what Susannah had called happy tears when she was little, and she dabbed carefully at her eyes with a white lacy handkerchief saved for just such an occasion. "Wasn't that wonderful?" Susannah smiled indulgently, which was easier said than done, given that she found her teeth were clenched. Another required word. It was. Wonderful. And didn't she look beautiful? Absolutely. This Q&A could take a while, although most of her mother's cues seemed to be rhetorical, and she probably needn't bother with the A's. This and the photos. Susannah wondered how far she was from her first glass of champagne. Too long, almost certainly. Perhaps she should have slipped a hip flask into her handbag. "I'm so thrilled they did it here." This was not news. St. Gabriel's Parish Church was at the geographical centre of the village, and the spiritual centre of Rosemary Hammond's life, inextricably linked to her and her family. She felt a glow of pleasure and satisfaction, remembering her own marriage here on the July day England had won the World Cup in 1966. All three of her children had been christened and confirmed here, and her parents were buried beside each other, though 12 years apart, in the churchyard outside. Before she and her husband had joined the French invasion and bought a converted barn there, she never missed a Sunday service, except when she was away on holiday, and twice after the hysterectomy she'd had in 2005, and on almost every Friday afternoon for the last 15 years, she'd dusted and polished the pews with 3 or 4 of her friends. Clive, her husband, called it dusting for Jesus, and was always rewarded with a harmless flick of the yellow duster as she left. Alistair, the eldest and the first of her children to marry, had married from Catherine's home near Cambridge. Of course, it was the right thing to do, although Rosemary knew and was slightly resentful of the fact that no one in Catherine's family seemed particularly religious, and Catherine herself had never even met the vicar who performed the service before they started planning the wedding. Rosemary hadn't liked the flowers much. Gerberas, so casual, and she was pretty sure that the pulpit hadn't seen pledge for a few weeks. Alistair and Catherine's daughters were Alex and Chloe's bridesmaids today. Millie and Sadie were tripping excitedly down the aisle behind Chloe, delighted by the swoosh of their tulle petticoats and the elaborately styled hair they'd had done at the hairdresser's. Susannah had married Sean here, 16 years ago. She had joked about eloping in the early days of her engagement, but Rosemary knew she would never do that to her. Susannah was her only daughter, after all, her only chance to really organise a wedding. Rosemary had been daydreaming about her little girl's wedding since the days...